daughter of Munir Faruqi, and she's going to recall her personal experience that the raid, the arrest, and detention has had on her family. Assalamu alaikum. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم لا سهل الا ما جعلته سهلا وانت تجعل الحزن اذا شئت سهلا. I usually start off with this dua, which is the dua for ease, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the difficult easy for us if He wishes. The reason why I choose this is because it's difficult. It's difficult to explain the experiences that you've been through and the experiences that we have been through for the past 6 years in relation to my father. So this banner here you see, Free Munir Faruqi, framed by undercover police. Who is Munir Faruqi? And what is it that's happened to him? My father, Munir Faruqi, he's been very active in the Manchester community for over 10 years. Following 9/11, there was a lot of hostility and hatred against Muslims in Manchester, and he picked up on this, and he didn't want to leave it as that. He wanted to fix things. He wanted to represent the true image of Islam, and he wanted to get rid of these stereotypes. And the way in which he started off was through dialogue. He wanted to build bridges between communities. So he started off with dawah stalls. He would set up like a stall outside in public, very close to a busy market. He'd be there every week, sometimes twice a week. And through these stalls, he met many Muslims and non-Muslims who were engaging with him, and a lot of people who took an interest in Islam because he distributed free literature to non-Muslims, explaining what Islam is about and the true image of Islam, and the fact that it has no relation to terrorism in any way, shape or form. Through these stalls, he made many friends, mainly non-Muslim friends, and a lot of new Muslims who they would be on the streets, and he wouldn't even know that these guys are Muslims, but they would approach a store and speak to my father and say, yes, we embrace Islam, not so long ago, a couple of years ago, we've not been practicing, etc. And the reason why they had embraced Islam, but they didn't look like Muslims as such, was because they felt that they hadn't been accepted and involved within the Muslim community. So when my father noticed this, it made him, knowing the good-natured man he is anyway, he felt that he had to do something about that, and he wanted to involve these new Muslims, and he wanted our Muslim community to wake up and to embrace these new Muslims, considering that they've left the lifestyle behind, and they've embraced a whole new religion, and it's going to come with a whole new set of challenges. And for our community to not be there as a form of support for them is disgraceful. And he noticed this, and he tried every effort in many different ways, by approaching imams of mosques. Some mosques wouldn't allow certain reverts into the mosque itself. There was a lot of issues that my father would take on and deal with personally. And a lot of non-Muslims he would embrace, who would actually take an interest in Islam through his stall. He would invite them to the house, and to our house, and they would come and eat with us, and etc. And it was very normal in our family to have guests in the house all the time. There's always something cooking. They'd have dinner with us and all the rest of it. So this happened for a good 10 years, one of very close friends of my father is a Christian minister who is in contact with my father even now. So this is the kind-hearted and the good nature of my father that I want to relate to you. None of his activities outside in public or in our family home represented any form of terrorism. My father, Munir Faruqi, is not a terrorist. Through these stalls, there was two guys, Simon and Ray, who met my father. Again, they came to the house and they spent many hours in my father's company, like many others did. They ate with us, hospitality, etc. was all same procedure. Simon actually said that he was an ex-alcoholic. He had a very bad problem which he was trying to recover from with drinking, and he expressed this to my father. He said that he needed support. Ray, he came from a troubled background, and he said that he had been disowned from his family. So when my father noticed this, of course, as normal, he said, I'm here to support you. If there's anything that you need, let me know, and I'm here for you. And they loved that, the fact that they've been disowned from their families, they don't have that support system. But then here's this man who's willing to spend hours on end with them and eat with them and all the rest of it, and be there financially, emotionally, any sort of support that they needed. My father was there for them. Eventually, they embraced Islam. After taking interest in Islam, taking back DVDs, etc., they attended the mosque and they embraced Islam. They changed the lifestyle where they grew their beards, went to the mosque to pray. They learned the salah. They attended Quran classes, as the normal procedure of when people embrace Islam. In fact, they also would be with my father at the dawah stall, doing dawah to people, just the way that they had approached my father. So they also attended dhikr gatherings, etc., and learned how to read the Quran. So they were very, and this is all in a very short span of time, in a matter of like about a year or so. They changed dramatically. So my father had a lot of respect for them. Not only my father, but a lot of people in the community did, because they had only just embraced Islam and they had changed totally the lifestyle, and they were so committed to the deen. Amongst this time, this is in around 2008. So they were around for about a whole year. In September 2009, I got married, and the home, obviously, as you can imagine, with it being a wedding in the home, alhamdulillah, we were all very happy. It was a very, very happy time for us. There was a lot of peace in our family home. Our family was together. That we had guests from all over the world come and live with us and join in the celebrations. My father, he was very involved in the preparations for my marriage, because I wasn't around at the time. I was studying out of Manchester. So my father, he took control, and this is what he was busy with. He is a very family orientated man. He looked out for his wife, for his children, for the community, for these reverts, for these non-Muslims, and he's a lovely man. He's a man who I remember. Every morning, memory I have of him is him waking up early in the morning to go to attend the first dawn prayers, in Fajr prayers, and every time he would come back, it's not that he saw it as a chore. He would love waking up in the morning. He would walk to the mosque. He would always be reciting regularly, every day, all the way to the mosque, walking back, and then coming home. He wouldn't just jump straight back into bed. He would play with the cat that we have in our home. He was so loving, such a beautiful man, who these people call a terrorist. So it was September 2009 when I got married, and Simon and Ray attended my wedding as well. They were very involved in our family home and our family life. And it was in November, 16th of November 2009, when our life was destroyed. It was 16th of November 2009, around 3 o'clock in the morning, when we heard loud bangs and just so much noise, thumping all the way up the stairs. And you've just woken up. It was frightening. The first thing that I thought was, I'm going to get murdered, or I'm going to get raped. This is the very first thought that came to my mind. And the moment I saw these two huge built men masked, all in their uniforms, I felt a sense of relief in a way in my heart that, alhamdulillah, it's a raid and it's not that, thugs who have just broken in and this is the end of my life. The personal impact is drastic. That moment, it totally changed our lives. I mean, my younger sister was only 5 years old at the time, and the last memory we have of our father as a free man is seeing him get handcuffed and smiling at my younger sister being dragged out of the house. The moment these people barged into our home, into my room, I stood up and I realized that this is a raid. I said to them straight away, I said, you barge into our home like this and you terrorize us in such a manner and you call them as Muslims the terrorists. I said, what you have done right now is terrorism. This is called terrorism. And they didn't like it, of course, because for them it's the other way around. But it shows how people, it's innocent people who are living their normal family lives, but their lives are turned upside down, destroyed totally, and then they are labelled the terrorists, which is the case that's happened with my father. Khadija, my little sister, she's only 5 years old who's seen this, and she can't understand what is going on. The first thing she said to my mum was, Mum, don't these people have manners? Did Dad not do dawah to these people? Don't they know how to attend, how to come to people's homes? Who are these people? Because it was like 40 or 50 officers who had barged into our home. And, this is a 5-year-old whose childhood has been destroyed and taken away from her. When she was in school, a teacher asked, the children, what is the best thing that could ever happen to you? And her reply, as children say, we would like lots of sweets or chocolates or ice cream. She's a 5-year-old and she says, I would love it if my father came to pick me up from school. So this is the impact that it has on families, on children, on humans, on us people. We shouldn't just see these campaigns objectively. It's very easy to do that, but we have to remember that it's lives that are destroyed in the process, and the impact it has is detrimental, and this is terrorism. The impact that it leaves is terrorism. What I have been through for the past 6 years is terrorism. This is terror, and we need to realize this and raise this awareness where we change the narrative altogether and we speak the truth, because this is the truth. We can't be afraid to allow them to represent their own narrative when in fact it's all lies and deceit. So we couldn't at that point understand why it is obviously that we've just been raided, and when we got escorted to a hotel and we saw it on the news, that we realised, right, this is something to do with terrorism. It's obviously, my father has been framed of some sort. When it came to, came out in the open that it was two men who have used some words against my father, and there's conversations are being used against him, we still couldn't understand what was going on, because thinking that it's these two people who my father has been there for a whole year, it was unbelievable. It was so shocking when we found out that it's Simon and Ray who turned out to be two undercover officers. Because, like I said, there was nothing there. My father is not a terrorist, and he didn't ever have any sort of, involvement with terrorism at all. In fact, he did the absolute opposite. And what had happened is that these two undercover officers, they would come to our family home with recording devices. They would spend hours in my father's company, and they would sit there, and over time, after a couple of months, they would start playing YouTube videos after, learning the Salah, etc., etc. They said, what is happening in the Ummah, and we want to do something about it. And, they play YouTube videos, and they'd sit there crying in front of my dad and saying, we want to do something, we want to do something. Dad would always, try to distract them and say, no, you're new Muslims, go to the Quran classes, go to the mosque, etc., etc. And there's only, because they were there, they were deployed for a whole year. They came with an aim and a purpose. They wanted to get my father to say something which they could use against him. It was a huge shock when we realized how they had totally abused our family, our hospitality, fooled my father totally. And even now, my father says that the sentencing that he received, which in fact is 4 life sentences, it didn't hurt him more than the betrayal of these two undercover officers, because he never had nothing but goodness and good intentions for these two undercover officers who befriended him. He always wanted to be there to help them. So even 4 life sentences didn't hurt him as much as their betrayal did. So there was a trial that went ahead, and in there again, my father had been doing dawah for a good 10 years, like I mentioned, and throughout those 10 years, there's only 2 people who turned out to be used against my father in the trial, who turned out to be undercover officers. There's not one person from Manchester, or the police were out trying to get statements of many people, from many Muslims and non-Muslims, from reverts and from born Muslims. Remember, my father was very well known in the community, but there was not one person who could say a bad word against him. In fact, they were getting positive feedback from everybody who they went to. It was only these 2 undercover officers who were there in court and spoke against my father. And one clip that was repeated over and over again was less than a minute long, from a couple of hours of conversation. And that one clip out of a couple of hours of conversation was repeated over and over again during the trial and even in the media. Over years of deployment, you pick out a couple of hours which is used evidence. There's many hours which is already unused evidence, which we weren't allowed to have access to. So there's used evidence, and from that, you only use a few seconds and then use that against a man and throw him behind bars for life. This speaks for itself. And the head of Northwest Counter-Terrorism Unit, Tony Porter, at the end of the trial and the convictions, he said himself, he confessed and admitted that we did not recover any blueprint, attack plan, or endgame for these men. There was no bombs, there was no bomb-making manual, there was no such conversations, nobody was going abroad to fight, there was no tickets in hand or anything like that. It's merely use of words that was used against my father and thrown him behind bars for life, for 4 life sentences that they've given him. It's really disgraceful, the tactics that they've used, and it's frightening because this can be any one of us, It doesn't, mean that. I mean, if my father, he was so public and out there, and people, he's so well known in the community. If this can happen to him, it can happen to absolutely anyone, and we must remember this. But one thing we must remember is that it shouldn't allow us to become silent. It should only encourage us to speak more against these injustices and bring it to light, because it's what has happened with my father. I mean, there's nothing to hide, and he has clearly been framed, and the use of these undercover officers is disgraceful. So the more we speak about it and bring it to light, inshallah, the more benefit it is for all of us as a community. I mean, why was my father targeted? He's an innocent man. His crime was nothing but to care for the community, to care for people. And one thing we must remember is that through this case, we realise that the crime wasn't any form of terrorism like bombs, etc. But